This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
What I'd like for us to do today is recognize that yes, we are going to face some incredible persecution, but as Christians, as individuals, some of us are facing persecution, but many of us are facing some stresses and some issues and some problems in life that are just overwhelming. And some of those are because of our faith, and some of them are just because that's what's happening in life right now. And so I'd like for us to take a look at the practical and applicable principles in this short story in the Gospel of John, facing the storms of life. How do you face the storms in your life? You need this for yourself, but you also need to know how to share this with people in your life. You've got family members, you've got friends, there are people in your life who are struggling with the storms in their life, and you need to share this truth in their life. Some of you are going through some storms in your life, and you refuse to believe that you're going through some storms in your life. You're just denying it, but the truth of the matter is you are in trouble. And when you look past the facade that you're putting on, you know you are. Some of you are pretending that life's good and I'm living my life now, and I've made up my mind and I'm going to be all about myself. I want to tell you something, you are in trouble. Because first of all, if you're a Christian and living your life that way, you're bringing yourself under the discipline of God. And secondly, if you're not a Christian and living your life that way, you're bringing yourself under the discipline of God. See, what's going to happen is, as we deny the truth and deny the reality of what's going on, then it throws us into a deeper abyss, if you will, that we have to deal with. And as Christians, if we don't learn how to deal with this and apply these principles in our lives, we're going to be one sorry lot of people. And we're going to miss our responsibility and our role that we're supposed to be playing as Christians during these end times. Now, Jesus has just finished feeding this 15,000 to 18,000 people that had gathered to hear him, as I mentioned earlier. And he's used the 5 loaves and the 2 fish to perform this amazing miracle. And now Jesus and the disciples are, I've mentioned already, they're so exhausted, and it's time to take a break. So Jesus instructs the disciples to get into one of the fishing boats that probably belonged to one of the disciples and to head across the lake. And it was probably for a time to get away and to rest. And Jesus, in the meantime, dismisses the crowd, and he slips away also for some quiet time. Now, this was not unusual. Jesus did this a lot. He would find times to go away and pray and just relax and spend time with a Father. This was not unusual. And by the way, you need to do that too. You need to, it's summertime, take a vacation. You need to do that. You need to find time to recharge. And if you believe that you don't, then you definitely need it. Now, understand that Jesus knows exactly what's about to happen. This is one of the most amazing things. When you study the story, know that Jesus knew what was about to happen. He knew that there was a storm blowing up. This was not like, ooh, whoops, I sent them out on the sea and there's a storm blowing up. Jesus knew exactly what was about to happen. It was no surprise. It was designed and destined by God before the world was even created. He knew exactly what was about to happen. This was part of God's plan to teach and to season the disciples and us. In fact, if you think of it this way, it's even more shocking. It was Jesus' fault that they were out in the middle of the storm. It was his fault. He had told them to go out on the lake, to go and cross the lake. And so they got out on the lake, and they're rowing right into a storm. It's getting worse and worse and worser. And so when it's at its worstest, things just seem to fall apart, and now they're panicked. And so I wonder what was going through their minds at the time. It may have appeared to them, obviously it appeared to them that Jesus had kind of left them out on their own. He wasn't on the boat with them. Hey, where's Jesus? He told us to come out here, and it's storming. If he's God, didn't he know this? They must have felt abandoned. They must have even maybe have been a little angry at Jesus. How could he do this to them? Do you ever ask that question? God, how could you do this to me? That's what the disciples were going through. How could you do this to me? You knew what was going to happen. It's kind of like, and here's the amazing thing. We blame God for those situations. I remember, being adopted and being raised by parents who loved me incredibly, never gave me any reason to believe that they didn't love me. But there are those times when you fight with your parents. Ever do that with your parents? And you fight with them, and what's the final thing that you can say to your parents to really get them back at them? And just, it's the final argument that any kid makes well, I didn't ask to be born. Well, that was kind of an understatement for me. And so my line was, well, I didn't ask to be adopted. And my parents would say, well, we wanted you. And I always have thought that should have been a but at the end of that sentence. But they never said that. And so there was, and we argue with God like that. God, I didn't ask for you to put me here. God, I didn't ask to be in the world at this point. God, why couldn't you have made me be born 1,000 years ago when things were cooler and and life was better and simpler and there was like Little House on the Prairie and stuff. Why couldn't I have been born then? Why do I have to be born now? Why do I have to be a tool in your toolbox in the end times to face the persecution and the issues that we're facing on a day-to-day basis? Why me, God? Well, that's what the disciples must have kind of been going through. Why us? Why we're exhausted. Why do we have to put up with this? Is this how it's all going to end? We're all going to drown out here on this lake? Well, in the Bible, the sea always represents chaos and separation. Always. When you study about the sea, you study about chaos and separation. And something amazing happened at that point. Right at the darkest point of the storm. Separation and chaos, they basically felt like they'd lost control. Everything was falling apart. In the midst of the storm, remember, Jesus had not calmed the storm yet. In the midst of the storm, Jesus comes to the disciples out on the lake. He just comes walking out on the lake, which must have been really, really cool to see. I don't know if they have videotape in heaven, but I'm hoping, because I want to see this. This would be awesome. Isn't this just the way God does things? It makes absolutely no natural sense whatsoever. And God comes walking out. And what is the thing that he comes out? Oh, now the disciples thought they'd seen a ghost. Oh yeah, we're totally freaking out. We are totally out of it. Now we're seeing ghosts. It's over with for us. They are totally freaked out. They're seeing somebody walk towards the boat. You know what's happening? You know why? Because they were afraid. And what was the first thing that Jesus did? He calmed their fear. He didn't calm the storm. He calmed their fear. It wasn't until after he had calmed their fear that he calmed the storm. Now, why? Because your fear is a greater damaging power than the storm you're going through. Think about this. Your fear in the storm is a greater damaging power than the storm itself. Because fear controls you, and when you make decisions and choices in fear, you make bad decisions and you make bad choices. When you make a decision out of fear, you have made the wrong choice. You've made the wrong decision. Even if it was a good decision, it was the wrong decision because you made it for the wrong reasons. You made a bad choice or a bad decision. When you act out of fear, you make the wrong choices and the wrong decisions. Trust me on this. It's taught over and over in the Bible. You are not going to see the storm calmed in your life until God has first calmed your fear. You are not going to see the storm calmed in your life until God has calmed the fear.
On behalf of Dan Hurst and the Open Class, we want to thank you for watching. We hope it was a blessing.